Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matrirupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha. We offer our salutations again and again to the Divine Mother who dwells within the hearts of all beings as Mother. So happy Mother's Day to everyone. We have a tradition among the monastic community to look upon all women as mother, even little girls, and whether they have children or not, all women. And it's a very beautiful sight sometimes to see an old sadhu addressing a little girl as Mataji or Ma. And we also have a tradition that in the case of Sri Ramakrishna, that he looked upon all men as incarnations of Rama, or so Rama dwelling within all men, and Sita within all women. So we can also try to see Holy Mother dwelling within all women. One of the great monks of our order, Swami Parmeshanandaji, he had a very close relationship with many of the young girls who became the first nuns, the first Piratikas of Sharada Math, and he used to address them as little Sharadas. So it's a very nice, sweet way of doing it. So I thought I would speak today on special relationship that we find between some of the greatest sannyasis of the history, really, and their relationship with their mothers. And it's an interesting thing because the sannyasin is not supposed to have too much to do with family, Orthodox tradition. We find that they maybe can go back after 12 years and see family members and things, but otherwise not much connection at all. And yet, we find that this rule was broken a little bit by some of these great monks, the greatest that we have. We can go back to Shankaracharya and Chaitanya Deva, and of course, Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji and everything. So anyhow, it's a very nice occasion, the day of paying homage to mothers, because the debt that we owe to our mothers is something that we can never repay. As men, we don't know what it's like to have to carry a child for 9 months and to go through the labor pains and morning sickness and all of that, and then to nurse the children and to have such a high hopes, and then to worry about them so much. I sometimes shudder when I think of how I made my mother worry so much when I was younger. There were months on end when I was traveling all over the world. She had no idea where I was, and it didn't even occur to me that how much trouble I was putting her to at the time. And then, of course, when we renounced the world, in India especially, even more so, that it's a very heart-rending thing for a mother, because they feel like they're losing a child. In that sense, of course, it turns out they're not really losing a child. But anyhow, so the tradition of worshiping the Mother, this of course is a holiday in this country, but the worship of Mother is something that's very, very important in India. First of all, we have the whole tradition of looking upon God as Mother, looking upon God as a woman. It may be there in some other traditions, but not to the same extent. This is a very beautiful feature of so many different traditions in India, worshiping God in all the different forms, Durga, Kali, Parvati, all the different forms of the Divine Mother. And two of the spiritual attitudes that we take, or can take, involve this relationship between mother and child. So the Vatsalya Bhava that we have, we look at Mother Yashoda and the love, selfless love that she had for baby Gopala. And the nice thing about this is that we learn something from identifying with Mother Yashoda, and we learn something by looking upon God as a small child. So with this particular attitude, we get to feel what it's like to have this motiveless love. The main idea behind this is that the love that the mother gives to the small child is perfectly selfless love, motiveless love, ahetaki bhakti, because that small child, at least at that age, can't do anything in return. I can't even show love in return. Just strictly that pure love that the mother has for the child. And as children, if we take that attitude, then we can feel that God is the essence of this motiveless love. So we have this other attitude where we look upon ourselves as the child and God as the mother. So then we can worship God as the one who will love us without any reserve. No matter what we do or anything, the love of the mother is something that will always be there. So these are two very beautiful types of attitudes that we have. If we take the attitude of the child, then we can learn perfect surrender and perfect reliance on God, the way a small child relies on the mother. So two of the most important attitudes that we have in the Indian tradition involve this relationship between the mother and the child. The role of the mother in society in India has also been raised to a much higher level. Swamiji was very fond of making that distinction, that in the West, the main role that the woman plays is wife, and in India, it's mother, that takes precedence over everything. Swamiji said in one of his lectures, "The ideal womanhood of India is motherhood, that marvelous, unselfish, all-suffering, ever-forgiving mother. The highest of all feminine types in India is mother, higher than wife. Wife and children may desert a man, but his mother, never. Mother's the same, or loves her child perhaps a little more. Mother represents colorless love that knows no barter, love that never dies. Who can have such love? Only mother, not son, nor daughter, nor wife. I am the power that manifests everywhere, says the mother, she who is bringing out this universe, and she who is bringing forth the following destruction. The ideal woman in India is the mother first and the mother last. The word woman calls up to the mind of the Hindu motherhood, and God is called mother. As children, every day, when we are boys, we have to go early in the morning with a little cup of water and place it before the mother, and mother dips her toe into it and we drink it. This Swamiji himself used to do. In the West, the woman is wife. The idea of womanhood is concentrated there as the wife. To the ordinary man in India, the whole force of womanhood is concentrated in motherhood. In the Western home, the wife rules. In an Indian home, the mother rules. So somehow, no offense to the men, but the women get precedence. We read in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Matri Devo Bhava comes first, then Pitri Devo Bhava. Want you to look upon one's own mother as God. And when Swamiji addressed the audience at the Parliament of Religions, he didn't say brothers and sisters of America. He said sisters and brothers of America. So in Swamiji's mind, at least, the women take precedence, that they're the ones to be honored first. Before I joined the order, I remember a very nice incident that took place. I went to Vrindavan, and Swami Sharadeshanandaji, Gopesh Maharaj, was there, and I got to meet with him. I only met him a couple of times and never spoke to him very much, but I told him that I had a desire to join the order, and I asked for his blessings. So he only asked me one question: is there someone to look after your mother? And I said, yes. And then he gave a silent assent, I hope. He did. But he seemed satisfied. But that was the one thing that you could just see that it would have been painful for him to think that son is renouncing the world and the mother is suffering because of it. He, of course, was one of the closest disciples and attendants on Holy Mother. And if anybody ever met him, he was very, very, combination of very sweet and loving and also very austere and brilliant. He was a real jnani and a bhakt at the same time. So I always remember just the look on his face when he said, is there someone to look after your mother if you renounce everything? And I said, yes, that's okay. So as I say, the obligation one has to one's mother is something that is a lifelong affair, with that one exception, that when one takes sannyasa, then somehow that debt is fulfilled. There's some belief that generations of one's family in the past and the future will even get liberated if the son renounces the world. So somehow that's taken care of. And even the Shraddha ceremony, we do that before we take our final vows. But we'll see that the exception was made with regard to some of these great monks that we have in history. There's a story about Latu Maharaj, Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda was the only disciple of Sri Ramakrishna that was completely unlettered. He was an orphan boy. He lost his parents. By the time he was 5, he had lost both parents. I don't know any of the details. He was raised by an uncle. So for him, Holy Mother really did take the role of the mother. All of the monks of the order looked upon her as mother, but they had their own mother. He didn't know his mother, or if he was 5, barely could remember the mother. So he had a special relationship with the Holy Mother. And the other unique feature was that Sri Ramakrishna was insistent that the future monks of the order not mix with women. He was very cautious about that they be very careful. But with Latu, he was a servant boy. This is how he came to Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna had him work very closely with the Holy Mother. And remember, Holy Mother at that time was a young woman, barely 30 years old. And but somehow Sri Ramakrishna felt that the Latu would look upon her really as his own mother. So one day, the Latu was sitting in meditation, and Sri Ramakrishna went to him and said, look, the one that you're meditating upon, that means Divine Mother, the one that you're meditating upon is working her fingers to death, rolling chapatis in the Nahabat. You go and serve her. So he arranged for that whole thing. So he was very, very close with Holy Mother. Only the Latu Maharaj and Swami Vivekananda, who was much, much older than all of them, they were the two who had free access to Holy Mother, and Holy Mother didn't even have to remain veiled in front of the Latu Maharaj. So they had this very sweet, very close type of relationship. Anyhow, there's a story that Latu was staying, he's at Swami Vivekananda at this point. He was staying at Balaram Bose's house. He very often, many of the monks stayed there. The Swami Brahmananda, Turiyananda, many of them stayed there. So he was staying there. And Holy Mother was staying upstairs, and she was getting ready to leave to go back to her village in Janambati. And everybody went to make pranam and to see Holy Mother off, get her blessings and everything. And Latu he stayed in his room. And they're wondering, what is wrong with this Latu? So they went down, and they see him pacing back and forth, and they can hear him say, who was mother and who was father to a monk? So he was trying to pretend that he was very strong. He had no deep feelings or anything like that, no attachment or anything. So Holy Mother heard this, and she said to him, "Oh, my child, it doesn't matter if you accept me or not. It's okay. I don't mind." Immediately, Latu ran from the room, fell down at Holy Mother's feet. He starts weeping, and she starts weeping. And then he says to her, "You are going to your father's house. Please don't weep. You will return soonly." Yeah, return soon. So the very sweet type of relationship was there between Latu Maharaj and Holy Mother. Yeah, this is really something how Holy Mother was the mother figure for the whole order. She was the Janani, Sangha Janani, the mother of the monastic order, how everybody paid the highest respect to the Holy Mother, and how Sri Ramakrishna wanted that. That was the whole plan, that he would start things rolling and she would carry on, that she would be the one that everyone would turn to for everything. So I especially wanted to mention this incident about Latu Maharaj because it shows both sides. The indifference that the monk is supposed to have towards all attachments and family relations and everything, and at the same time, there's deep love in the hearts of monks, because they're human beings also, for their earthly mother. And this is something that especially noticed, as I mentioned, in some of the greatest sannyasis, the most orthodox sannyasis. So I just wanted to go through a little bit and talk about these few great souls and the relationship that they had with their mothers. No the deep Vedantic philosophy today. It'll just be these nice stories about the monks and as sons, we can say, and their mothers. So Shankaracharya, most of us know the story, of course, that he was a young boy. His father had passed away. Now, this is something that seems to be so common, that the father passes away and somehow it brings this little mood of vairagya comes, or this questioning of the value of life. In any event, his father had passed away, so mother is a widow, and yet, at this very young age, just a small boy, he has a desire to become a sannyasin. And the mother has no one to rely on. This is just, there won't be any children after this. So she doesn't want to give permission for him to go away. What mother will do that for a young boy? So anyhow, the story is that this is in Kaladi in Kerala, that he went to bathe in the river one day, and a crocodile caught hold of him. And it looked like he was about to die, so he said to his mother, "Mother, please give permission now. There's something called apat sannyasa, that at the time of death or at the time of grave danger or something, without undergoing all of the rituals and the Viraja Homa, that one can declare oneself a sannyasin." So she thought, my son is going to die, this crocodile has him, let him at least die as a sannyasin. So she gave permission. And then, of course, miraculously, the crocodile let go of him, and he came out. And then too late to do anything at that point. Yeah. So this was the story of Shankaracharya. But he made a promise to his mother, and again, this is completely contrary to Orthodox tradition, that he would be there on her deathbed and do the final rites and everything. And in the midst of all of this work, we know that Shankaracharya, he traveled all over India, he wrote all of the commentaries, he restored the whole temple worship system in India, wrote so many hymns. In the midst of all of this, he never forgot his mother, and he remembered that pledge, and he visited her on her deathbed, and he built a funeral pyre and performed the final rites himself. This is what we read, at least, which really was looked down very much upon by the Orthodox monastic community at that time. But this was the pledge he had made to his mother, so he kept that pledge. We think of Shankaracharya as very staunch. We don't see that sweet, loving side to him so much, but it was there also. Now, Chaitanya Deva, this also known as Nimai, this is another example of the love that the child has for the mother. Now, in his case, the mother had 10 children. Again, the father died. Yeah. Of course, in India, the mother was very often quite a bit younger than the father, so naturally the husband would die earlier. But in her case, they had 10 children, 8 of them had died. The one remaining son, other than the Chaitanya, had renounced the world, so he was the only one there. And when his father passed away, he went to Gaya to perform the final rites, and there some conversion took place. He met his mantra guru, Ishwara Puri, and had some type of initiation, and came back with this intense desire to renounce the world. Now, how to tell his mother? This was the thing, that after suffering so much, the death of so many children, losing the oldest son as a sannyasin, and now to find out that the last remaining son and child is going to renounce the world. So it was a very touching scene. I talked about this Friday night, I think. Anyhow, this Nimai Sannyas, this beautiful drama that's often performed about how tearfully his mother had to watch him go. But he told his mother that she would always get news of him, that he would go to Puri, and this was a place where all the local devotees could go and stay for a few months and go back and give news, and that whenever she wanted to see him, she would be able to see him. Some mystical type of thing. And Chaitanya Deva, we may think of him as singing and dancing, lovable person, all of that, but he was very strict, staunch sannyasin. And the role of renunciation in the life of Chaitanya Deva was extremely strong. We read stories about if anybody in his community deviated a little bit. There's one Haridas, he begged food from an old widow and was kicked out of the community because he was supposed to be leading a monastic type of life. So this is the other side of Chaitanya Deva, who really was the highest example of the real full sannyasa, same as with Shankaracharya, and yet the mind was on the mother, and remembering the mother and doing whatever he could so it wouldn't be so painful for her when he renounced the world. So we have these two examples, but they're nothing compared to Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. This was really, of course, Sri Ramakrishna, he was a monk, but not in the very orthodox sense. Even before taking monastic life, he led, of course, a life of perfect renunciation, but not in the sense that he ever left home, that he ever took Garawa cloth or anything. In fact, everything was done kind of in secret. When Totapuri came to Dakshineshwar, saw Sri Ramakrishna, and felt that here he was a perfect, qualified person to lead the life of sannyasa and follow the path of Jnana Yoga, and wanted to initiate him into sannyasa at the same time, initiate into sannyasa and also help him realize this highest level of samadhi. So there's a path of Jnana Yoga and Raja Yoga, we can take combined. So Sri Ramakrishna, he had two slight objections. He said, well, one thing, I married. Of course, the Holy Mother, he wasn't living a married life with Holy Mother, but so he said, that doesn't matter. And then he said, and my mother, my aged mother, is living with me. See, when his, in the case of all of the ones that I'm talking about, the father had died earlier. So after Sri Ramakrishna's father passed away, then oldest son, Ramkumar, passed away, and later Ramesh. So his mother had no one but him. So Sri Ramakrishna brought his mother to live in the Nahabat. She lived there for many years before Holy Mother got there, and while Holy Mother was there also. And she was a very pious woman, a very simple woman, a woman who had many spiritual experiences. We know about the vision that she had before Sri Ramakrishna was born. And Sri Ramakrishna had great love, tremendous devotion to his mother. And before Thakur was born, both parents had some experience. In the case of Sri Ramakrishna's father, that when he went to Gaya, that there Vishnu appeared before him, that I'll be born as your son. But when he got back, he found out that Sri Ramakrishna's mother also had some type of experience. She said, "Listen, when you went to Gaya, one night I had a wonderful dream. I saw a luminous being lying on my bed. First, I thought it was you. Then I realized that no human being could have that kind of beauty. When I awoke, I felt that being was still in the bed." Then she went on to say it may have been a divine being. She thought maybe it was a thief, that somebody snuck into her room. She was very simple and got a little bit senile, actually, at the end. And she had a little quarrel with somebody, thought maybe that person came into her room. So she told her friends all about this, and they all laughed and said it was just a dream. They said, don't tell others that they'll think that you're senile. But she told her husband, she said, another day, also, I was standing in front of the Yogi Shiva temple. There's a temple just outside of their compound. And talking with Dhani, she's a low-caste village friend. She's the one who gave Thakur his bhiksha when he had his sacred Ved ceremony. Suddenly I saw divine light emanating from the image of Shiva. It filled the temple and rushed toward me like a wave. Stupefied with fear and wonder, I fell unconscious. Later, when I regained consciousness with Dhani's help, I told her my experience. At first, she was amazed, but then she said, "You had an epileptic fit." From then on, I've had the feeling that light is still on in my womb and that I am pregnant. When I mentioned this to Dhani and Prasanna, they scolded me and called me foolish, mad, and so on. Well, what do you think about it? She's talking to her husband. Did I have that vision by God's grace, or was it all a delusion? Even now I feel that I am with child. So, as I say, her husband passed away, her two older sons had passed away, then it was only Sri Ramakrishna. So she came to live with him, and this was around the time that Totopuri came. So Sri Ramakrishna told Totopuri that, look, I don't mind taking sannyasa, but it should be done in secret, and I won't wear this ochre robe or anything, so that my mother won't know. That was one fear, because to have a son take sannyasa, we've seen, is almost like the son is dying. The son is dead. The son will be gone. There's that fear that sannyasin will leave home and she won't see him again and everything. So they did everything in secret. So as far as we know, that his mother never knew that he took. Of course, in his case, taking the vows of sannyasa didn't mean much. He was living like a sannyasin anyhow. That was something that was very important for Totopuri. For him, I don't know if it made too much difference. He would have had that same samadhi and everything without it. But he wanted to make sure that his mother didn't find out. So anyhow, the mother lived there for 12 years. This is from 1864 to 1876. And she was very simple and very unassuming. Mathur Babu was there at that time, before he passed away, in Dakshineshwar. And he, of course, was very wealthy. He was always happy if he could supply anything to Sri Ramakrishna. Very rarely would Thakur take anything from anybody. And in fact, he had an abhorrence for accepting gifts and for saving things and everything. So Mathur Babu many times would try, and Thakur would say, no. that if you want to give money and leave things with me and everything, I'll leave. He was very insistent upon that. So Mathur Babu had an idea, maybe I can do something for his mother. So he went to Thakur's mother and said, is there anything you need? Whatever you like, just say the word and I can get you whatever you need. I'll be happy to buy something for you, some nice clothes, anything. And she couldn't think of anything. Then finally she said that to clean my teeth, I take a little of this tobacco and burn this tobacco, take the ash and use it to clean my teeth. Can you get some of that for me? Yeah. So Mathur Babu, he was very impressed. He said, only a woman of such type of renunciation can have a son like Sri Ramakrishna. So this was the nature of Thakur's mother, and he used to visit her every day. She started getting a little bit senile, and some funny things were there, that every day they would hear this whistle from some mill or something that was nearby, and she thought that this was the call for food to be served and for Vishnu and Lakshmi. So she wouldn't eat until she heard that, that they had been fed first. So on holidays and weekends, that the factory wasn't working, so they wouldn't hear anything. So they had to make up stories and do things to get her to eat on those days. So very, very simple, sweet-natured woman. We remember that scene when Holy Mother was sitting in Sri Ramakrishna's room and massaging his feet, and she said to him that, how do you look upon me? And we know, he said, that the Divine Mother who is in the temple and the one who's massaging my feet, I look upon as one and the same. But we have to remember also, he said, the third one, and the one who gave birth to this body. So he looked upon not just Holy Mother as one with the Divine Mother, but his own mother that way. So she was about 85 years old and still living in the Nahabat and Dakshineshwar. And health started to fail. So Sri Ramakrishna every day would do a little personal service for her. And one day saw that she hadn't left her room. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, so they unlocked the door and found her just about at the point of death. So they nursed her very carefully for 3 days. Then just before she passed away, they carried her body to the banks of the Ganga. This, of course, is considered the most auspicious type of death. And Sri Ramakrishna was by her side, and when she passed away, and he himself offered flowers and tulsi leaves smeared with sandal paste on her feet. He did everything, and she quietly passed away. Now, as a sannyasin, Sri Ramakrishna was not entitled to do any final rites, any ritualistic types of things. So he refrained from that. But a day or two later, he really felt some strong desire to do something. So he wanted to do this tarpan. You just at least offer some water. He tried several times. Each time the hands opened up and the water came through. So this was something typical in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, that things manifested in his life in a very tangible, concrete way, not just a symbolic way, but this rule that sannyasins don't do these things. Even though he wanted to do it, he couldn't do it. Just like if he wanted to hold money, he couldn't do it. His hand would start to sting and everything. So he did his very best to do it, but each time the water dripped through. But it just shows that this tremendous love and reverence that he had for his mother. And we see how the mother suffers so much with the death of children. Yeah, for the mother to have to see outlive for the two older sons. And it's a very difficult type of thing. Now we get to the Yati Raja. we get to the king of ascetics, Swami Vivekananda, the dynamic the monk that's fearless and everything. He was really a mama's boy. He was, when it came to his mother, that was the one thing that would break him. He could be strong with other things, but he had a tender heart for everything. We know that, but especially with regard to his mother. Now, in her case also, she had to witness the death of children before he was born, that she gave birth to a son who died, then had 3 daughters, and one of those died. So there were just 2 daughters at this point, and she naturally wanted to have a son. In those days, the daughter left the house and lived with the other family. You have a son, at least there's someone to keep the family traditions going and to live in the ancestral home and look after the mother in old age. So she had a great longing to have a son, and she was a devotee of Shiva, so she made special prayers and fasted on Mondays. And one of the aunts of the Datta family lived in Varanasi and went to the Vireshwara temple every day for her and did special offerings and prayers. So finally, when Swamiji was born, that she took this as the special grace of Shiva and wanted to have the boy named after Shiva, Vireshwara. There were some who said that he looked like the grandfather, Durga Prasad, who had left the world, and they wanted to name him after that, after Durga Prasad. But she said, no, this is through the grace of Shiva. He should be named Vireshwar. So that was the name he was given, called Bile, when he was young. And then, of course, we know him as Narendra. Now, from the side of Narendra, he had such a devotion to his mother. We've seen how he even taken this charanamrita from the mother every morning, and how she's the one who really molded his spiritual life. Now, his father played a tremendous role also. Father for 2 things. His father was extremely liberal and extremely generous. And but in terms of real spirituality and deep faith and everything, he always gave credit to his mother, that it was from his mother that he learned, as many boys did, and girls also, the stories from Mahabharata and Ramayana and Puranas and everything. So he had tremendous love for his mother and tremendous devotion and tremendous sense of responsibility. So this is was a terrible dilemma for Swamiji when his father passed away. See, each case the father passes away, and it's a turning point. When the father passed away, his family was in terrible poverty, and he was the one who had to support everyone, because he had 2 younger brothers were both much too young to possibly think about getting a job. Swamiji himself was only around 20 or something at that time. And so it broke his heart to see his mother having to live like that she had no clothes, the saris were all getting old and torn and barely enough food to live on, and brothers and sisters also. So a terrible dilemma for him, because on the one hand, he felt that responsibility to look after the family. On the other hand, he had this responsibility to carry on the work of Sri Ramakrishna, which meant renouncing the world. So what turmoil there must have been in Narendra's mind at that time, that knowing that if he fulfills the mission to which he was born, he knew that, not just carrying out the desire of Sri Ramakrishna, but he knew he was born for that, to do that, and at the same time, I won't say abandon the family, but who else was there to look after them? So the terrible dilemma for him, and throughout his whole life after that, he didn't regret his choice. I don't know if he felt exactly guilty, but he felt some tremendous responsibility to do something for his mother. So we read this over and again, that that was the one thing that was always in the back of his mind, that what will happen to his mother. When Swamiji was in the West, and he was being slandered by many people, some of whom were people who knew him. See, before he renounced the world, Narendra, he was studying law, and he was actually working in some law firm, something like an apprenticeship or something like that. We were reading the other day. And as a member of the Brahmo Samaj, he used to partake in these plays that they would put on. So there's one rascal from the Brahmo Samaj who came to the West, put it up, that he started telling people, this Swami Vivekananda that you're lionizing so much, he's really just a lawyer, and he's an actor on the stage. How horribly twisted. I mean, there was some basis for that, but how it was twisted to make him look like a complete fraud. And at the same time, there was no word from India that could prove that Swamiji was a real representative of the Hindu religion. So Swamiji, he wrote in his letters, wrote back to his brother disciples, can something be done? Get up some meeting, it's at least to show that I'm not a cheat and a fake. And then he said, for me, I don't care, but if word gets back to my mother, if my mother hears that after suffering so much and giving up her one son to be a sannyasin, that it's come to this, that I'm just a fraud and a fake, that it'll kill her. So this was the one thing that bothered him more than anything else. Yeah, there's so many references in Swamiji's letters and everything about his mother. He said, it was my mother who inspired me to this. Her character was a constant inspiration to my life and work. The love which my mother gave to me has made me what I am, and I owe a debt to her that I can never repay. I believe whatever religious culture I have, I owe to that. It was consciously that my mother brought me into the world to be what I am. Consciously brought him, that means that from the praying for him, and at the moment that she became pregnant, then leading a life of intense prayer. See, in India, there's a great belief that the state of mind of the mother through the period of pregnancy will determine the birth. So, not a time of great piety, and she did all of these things. So it was consciously that my mother brought me into the world to be what I am. Whatever little good impulse I have was given to me by my mother, and consciously, not unconsciously. During the time that Swamiji was traveling throughout India, his Pravrajika period, that still this thought of his mother was always in his mind. One of Swamiji's closest and dearest and most devoted disciples was this Maharaj of Khetri, this Raja Ajit Singh. And he was the one who probably gave Swamiji his name, or at least because Swamiji used different names at different times. He was probably the one who suggested, keep this one, this is Vivekananda. And he was the one probably who taught him how to wrap the turban, the Rajasthani style, like that. And so they had a very close relationship. They were practically the same age. Yeah. And he was one that Swamiji could really open up his heart to and request him for sannyasa, and to ask somebody to give money for his mother. It was a very odd thing in those days. But he had that type of relationship that he could do that. And this Maharaj of Khetri, he did it for many years. He sent 100 rupees every month to Swamiji's mother. Then he suddenly died. It was a very odd thing that he was surveying some building that was up and on the roof, and he either fell or was pushed. There was some thought of some palace escapade things going on, the struggle for power or something like that. But anyhow, so that was a great blow to Swamiji, losing his beloved disciple, and also that money that was going to help support his money at that time. Fortunately, there were others, this Holy Bull and some others that were they knew. See, he confided to them about his own mother and his mother's condition. They also were very helpful. There was another time that Swamiji was traveling in South India, and he had a dream that his mother had died. Now, Swamiji used to say that he wasn't prone to these things. You know, he hated things that sounded like superstition or supernatural things and everything, but it weighed on his mind very much, and very much concerned to find out was there any truth behind any of this. So, and he was anxious to find out right away. He could have written letters and things. Everything takes time in India at that time. So anyhow, this Alasingha and others were with him in South India, and they knew of some fortune teller who knew somehow he had tremendous psychic powers and everything. So they took him to Swamiji, and before Swamiji asked about his mother, he wanted to find out, does this man really know anything? So somehow this man looking at Swamiji could tell him all about his forefathers, ancestors, things about his childhood and everything, so that he was convinced that somehow he had some special power. And he reassured him, Swamiji, that his mother was okay, that this was just a dream. And before that, he wasn't willing to go to the West. This is before his trip to the West. He also, of course, we know, needed the permission of Holy Mother. But he had also confided to this Haridas Viharidas Desai. He was the Dewan of where? Junagadh. In one of his letters, he had gone to see Swamiji's mother. See, they all knew about his mother and understood Swamiji's concern. So he wrote, "Dear Dewanji Sahib, your last letter reached me a few days ago. You had been to see my poor mother and brothers. I'm glad you did, but you've touched the only soft place in my heart. You ought to know, Dewanji, that I'm no hard-hearted brute. If there's any being I love in the whole world, it is my mother." When Swamiji returned from the West, as soon as he got back to Calcutta, the first thing that he did was he went to his mother and he bowed down before her and he put his head on her lap. And I'm sure both of them wept at that time. So Swamiji used to say that he had two final desires in his life. This is when he had come back from the West. He had started the Ramakrishna Math in Mission. This was in 1897, and felt that with or without him, everything would continue. He used to say that the machine was in fine working order. So he didn't feel too much obligation. In fact, wanted to turn everything over. He really didn't want to have much to do with anything. He gave all the money to Swami Brahmananda and said, "You'll be the president and everything." But he wanted to see his mother settled down in her own house, and he wanted to take her on pilgrimage. He wrote to Sarah Bull, "It is becoming clearer to me that I lay down all concerns of the mutt and for a time go back to my mother. She has suffered much through me. I must try to smooth her last days. Do you know, this is exactly what the great Shankaracharya himself had to do." Anyhow, Swamiji was able to fulfill that one desire. He took his mother on pilgrimage to East Bengal, and my very first trip to Bangladesh, I made it a point to go all of the places that Swamiji took his mother. Yeah. So, Dhaka, Langolband, there are many places, Chandranath, there's the beautiful Shiva temple at the top of the hill, many places, and also took her to places, Assam. So also went to Guwahati and Shillong, Kamakya. He took her to all of these places, and that was a very wonderful thing for both of them. Swamiji really felt that one desire has been fulfilled. The last thing that I'll bring up is Swamiji's great love and all of the love that they had for Holy Mother. So this love that he had for his own mother and the love for Holy Mother, we can't really separate them. The devotion and love for Holy Mother was something very special, and Swamiji's reliance on the wisdom of Holy Mother was also a wonderful thing. Before going to the West, having the vision of Sri Ramakrishna beckoning him to the West, a very clear vision, beckoning him to the West, wasn't enough. He had to get Holy Mother's approval. And we have a couple of other instances when plague came. There was a terrible plague, and people were fleeing Calcutta right and left. And Swamiji really wanted to have the mission, undertake the whole burden of trying to clean up the city, because one of the main sources of the plague was the filth in the streets and rats. And really, Sister Nivedita and this Swami Sadananda, this Swamiji's disciple, they went into these slum areas and cleaned out these horrible places with rats and everything, and they have really helped eradicate all of this because of the plague. Anyhow, Swamiji, he said, look, we're sannyasins, that our rightful place is to live under a tree. We have this big property and everything, better we sell it and use that money to help take care of the horrible situation with plague. So all of his brother disciples, they were a little bit shocked, and one of them finally said that, why not console Holy Mother? So Swamiji immediately agreed. So we went to Holy Mother, and she said, first of all, my child, you don't own this to give it away. It's not yours. And secondly, you may be able to live like that, but those who come in the future, they won't be of that same caliber to be able to live under a tree and beg their food. And this Belur Math that you've started, this will be of tremendous value. It'll bring so much joy and peace and do so much good work in the future. So my child, don't think of selling it. Immediately, Swamiji gave it up. And the other example, when they wanted to have the first Durga Puja in Belur Math, that Swamiji had a great desire to do everything according to all the rites and rituals and rules and everything, partly because there was the perception that these are modern sadhus. They're not real sannyasins. They don't do things according to real tradition. So he wanted to do everything, which include the offering of a goat, something like that. So again, they said, console the Holy Mother, and she said, no, my child. That there'll be people coming from all over not just the local people in India, you have Western disciples and everything, it won't look right or anything. So immediately Swamiji gave it up. So we see the tremendous love that all of the direct disciples had, of course all of her own disciples, for Holy Mother. So this is a very special occasion for all of us to pay our respects, pay our love and honor and everything to our own earthly mothers, to the Divine Mother of the universe, to Holy Mother. I won't go into any details, but I also have a great debt to my own mother. My mother was a great inspiration in my life, and I owe so much to her. So anyhow, this is my ode to motherhood. I wish all of you a very happy Mother's Day. And we can just sit quietly for a few minutes.